Hello everybody, Sean Milburn here with Milburn Motorsports once again today. We're working on the Z. I just got the parts in today, so we got a couple of AEM gauges as well as a Z1 clutch and a ZWT CSC. I figured taking out the stock CSC from the car would be a benefit since it tends to fail a lot of people. I didn't go with the delete kit because I didn't feel like having to hassle with changing a bunch of stuff around on the transmission to get that all functioning. So I went with this for now. If it works, good. If not, it ends up going out, well, I'll get the delete kit in the future. I think this one should be good for now though.
I was later told by Rob at Z-Car Garage that the delete kit would have been a much better solution.
Alright, so let's take a look at the parts we got here. This is a Z1 clutch. This is just the Street Sport. I don't really need anything that's like track duty or anything like that. Just got the Z sitting here. But yeah, it's just Street Sport clutch. Don't really need anything more heavy than that. Just for the use I'm doing, I'm not going boosted or anything like that, so it's unneeded. Got the slave cylinder here. You can see it sitting in there, so I'll probably get this worked in there first after I get the clutch and flywheel back on the motor, and then we'll go from there. So taking a look at the motor here, just gonna show you guys what's going on. We got the whole wiring harness back on it, and you can see how much of an absolute freaking mess this shit is. So it's like, I figured it would be best to not go through this whole thing because you guys don't want to watch me put, like, look at all these sensors. They're just everywhere. Some of these need to be remounted back in the engine bay, so not all of them are gonna be plugged in. But yeah, for the most part, it's just a lot of stuff. Currently, I'm getting the flywheel back on, so this was an automatic. So we actually had to pull off this little piece. And we had to weld a couple washers. You can see that onto it so that we could hook something in there and then force it off. Yeah, that was a pain. It was right about there. It's just sitting in there. So I took that out, so now we can get the manual flywheel in.
So while I was putting the flywheel back on, I made a big mistake. I didn't actually line up the dowel pin on the crank to the flywheel in the little hole that it's supposed to be mounted in. So that sets the timing on the crank position sensor. If you don't have that set in the dowel pin, the flywheel's not on perfectly right as it needs to be, then the sensors will believe the motor to be out of time and the car will not run. So don't be like me, put this on right the first time and don't have to go and drop your transmission later in the future so that you have to readjust your flywheel.
Alright, so I'm going to be looking up the torque specs for this clutch now. This is a Z1 clutch, yet again. We got the flywheel on, put some red Loctite on those bolts, you saw me doing that. Now that the clutch is on, we just got these finger tight, so I'm gonna look up the specs on my phone and then we'll get to tightening this up. I'll let you guys know how tightly to get them.
Now, when I first started being a mechanic and working on cars, there was about 3 wires you had to connect to make the car go. Now look at this thing. My God, you can't even see the motor. There are so many wires, hoses, and connectors for a small 6-cylinder engine that makes 310 horsepower. In my day, a V8 engine had to be punched out like $10,000 worth to get that kind of horsepower. And this is pretty common when you're running a race car and track cars, that you're out in your garage at the dark at nighttime with a drop light putting everything back together. This can be a pretty common occurrence, but if you like doing this kind of stuff, it doesn't bother you. Better than sitting around watching TV.
This is about 30.
30? That sounds normal. Okay, so you snug it a little bit and then go across and snug it, and then across and snug it. You don't want to be, yeah, you don't want to be just smashing down the first bolt and bending something. You want to ease that pressure plate on.
Yeah, just slowly each corner.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use the gun here, but I'm not gonna like run them down. I'm just gonna
tap them down for speed.
Yeah, I'm just gonna like lightly rest my finger on it and just get them at least a little bit prepped.
You do not really want to send it down with an impact gun. That's a good way to like be breaking things. Just want to snug it down and then.
So now that the clutch and flywheel are on the motor, we're gonna go ahead and change the CSC. The transmission is super accessible in there. So we're gonna need to take a couple bolts off the outside of the housing and then get a couple off of the CSC to disconnect the line, and then it should come on right out, and I'll put the JWT one on. I'll show you that in a second here. So with the headers and everything out of the way, this is super accessible. I mean, I can just reach up in here, no problem to get to these. You are gonna need to get like a Torx kit to take that bolt off and the one over there. And once those are off, it's just connected to this little plate. It should produce some play and then come off pretty freely. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so I'm back up here. If you look in here, see that little retainer clip? I just pulled it up a little bit with a flathead and it came up a bit, so it should just come right off. Pull it out, and yeah, if you just pull it apart here, it just kind of clamps on and comes off pretty easily. So don't force it too hard, just give it a little pry and it should come off, and then this line should just pop right out. With a couple 10mm sitting right there and right there, there's just two of them. Once you undo those, it just slides right off. Super simple. It's like 4 bolts in that one clip. And now we're gonna go ahead and put the new one in. So the JWT gives you an O-ring, so you can replace the existing one on the line that connects into it. Take the new one. Shouldn't need a pick for that. Yeah, you just slide it around with your fingers. There it goes. Super simple. Really easy. I'm gonna finish getting this in, so I'm gonna use the hole they provided, put that in there, and then just add a little pressure till it pops in. Easy, not too much. And then grab the little bolt and kind of see what they got going on here. Just a bolt with like a little spacer around it. Threads right into this hole. You gotta actually seat it down like that. Get it around. There we go. Just a little snug like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Right about there, yeah.
That Loctite will hold it in place.
Yep, it just needs to be in place and not move, which that should do. So that is successfully in, and yeah, the motor is just about ready to go.
You can drop it in on Thursday.
Yeah, we're gonna get it in soon here. Everything's kind of cleaned up, so we just need to get the tools prepared, and then we'll be good to start putting it back in. Should be fine. We're gonna worry about the gauges once everything else is in, because it's gonna be really hard to figure out where to wire it if we have no idea where it's supposed to be going. So that'll be next. Yeah, the next thing you guys will see is us putting the motor in, so see you in a sec. So we coaxed the engine into the bell housing and got the bolts in and mated. So we just kind of shook it as we tightened it down, and it just kind of slid on at one point. So
She did.
yep, seems to be connected fine. All the bolts and the holes are lined up perfectly. So motor should be mounted to the transmission now. We're gonna lift it back up a little bit so we can actually set it down on the motor mounts, and then that'll be the engine first step, getting it in. Complete, and then we got a long way to go after that. But
Lots of bits and pieces.
yeah, lots of bits and pieces, but at least the big thing, getting this thing back in, will be kind of out of the way. Even bigger thing I feel is going to be figuring out each and every one of these wires and getting them back where they belong. And yeah, we'll just keep taking it from here.
Okay, swing the engine over this way.
So this thing is looking better and better the more we work on it. We actually got the plenums on. We're actually just finishing getting that squared away and tightened up. We're going over and just looking for any more loose plugs that aren't going to be plugging into the front of the car, like this is going to come up here and stuff. But yeah, the whole exhaust is all hooked up. So we got that done there. Got the connectors plugged in here. Motor mounts are all tightened down. Oil cooler lines are on. We still need to, we don't have any fluids in it yet. That comes after we're we're done with all this. But yeah, we're just doing a final checkup, making sure we didn't forget anything. Well, everything's still super easily accessible. And then we'll start putting the front end back on the car. And if we can get it on fast enough and efficiently enough, maybe we can try and start it today. That'd be kind of cool.
Cool.
So we got the radiator back in the front here so we can start to remount it. I got the oil cooler here. It was completely full of oil. I poured it into here and it was just metal shavings and metal flakes as I was pouring the thing out. I also kind of forgot it was full for a second there. So yeah, so now I'm gonna spray some brake cleaner in this hole and just hold this at an angle and let it flush through and start cleaning this thing out, because we don't want any of that stuff left in here.
So here we get to add the radiator support back onto the car. Already has the radiator and the oil cooler mounted on it. Makes it super convenient to get it back on. See, it just slides on where the crash bar mounts there. It's going to go in front of both of those, but for now we just need to get all the plumbing tubes on, all hooked up, everything routed to where it needs to go.
We're getting super close to being able to try and start it. We're gonna keep a lot of the stuff on the front off, like the actual bumper and all the covers and stuff like that, because we don't actually need any of that to try and start it up. We're gonna be putting fluids in it. We're just getting the reservoirs back on. I'm gonna put the intake pipes back on so we can hook up the map sensors, and then it should try and start. But if we don't have those sensors plugged in, then it'll probably be kind of hard to turn over. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. We're making some decent time on this. All right, here we go. Ready?
Yeah. It's doing that on its own?
So
Yeah.
this is the sound it's going to make when you have your flywheel on improperly. See here, as we go to start up the car, it's right on the verge of wanting to start up and it just won't start. So that is what we were dealing with. It took a bit to diagnose the issue, and once we figured out what it was, we had it confirmed by Rob at Z-Car Garage that the flywheel was not on correctly, and we had to tear the transmission back out of the car so we could get the flywheel. So it was a whole nother process after we got the motor all in. So don't do what I did. Put it on right the first time. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I didn't enjoy this one because of how much hassle we had to go through and what came after, but at least you guys got to see the process of what we did, what was going on with the Z, and we got it back in and buttoned up. So that is a big plus. The Z's almost ready to go as it stands right now. Got another video coming for you guys on the car. If you guys want this to be a little more informational on what exactly we did with the car to get it to where it is, besides just seeing, okay, what are the steps that we did, and a little more in depth to it, because this video is getting a little bit long. I didn't want to do anything that was going to be like a half hour of just footage of us putting bolts on a car. So let me know if you have any suggestions. If there's anything you want to see that I can make happen for you, let me know and I'll see what I can get done. That is not a problem. I've been thinking about doing some sim racing, recording myself doing that, maybe even streaming it live through YouTube. If you guys are interested in that, please let me know so that I know that's a good idea to show you. So it's been Sean Milburn with Milburn Motorsports. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment if there's something you want to see. Leave a like if you enjoyed. And I'll see you in the next video.